Let's be real. Most people won't tell you directly if they don't like you. Instead, they'll hide behind fake smiles, empty compliments, and polite indifference. I've been there too. I thought someone was a close friend, only to realize later they secretly wished I'd fail. It's a harsh truth, but if you don't recognize the signs, you'll waste time and energy on people who don't genuinely support you. So let's cut through the noise and talk about how to tell if someone doesn't truly like you, even if they're pretending otherwise. You may not want to hear this, but it's better to face the truth than live in a delusion. A telltale sign is when they constantly joke about your flaws. We all know someone who seems to always be joking, especially when the jokes are at your expense. They'll poke fun at your habits, mistakes, or imperfections, all with a smile and "Oh, I'm just joking." It might seem harmless at first, but don't kid yourself. These jokes often carry an edge. They're subtle digs, carefully disguised as humor, designed to chip away at your self-esteem bit by bit. I remember being close with someone like this. No matter what I did, they had something critical to say: my clothes, my speaking style, even my projects. At first, I laughed it off, assuming it was all in good fun, but over time, I noticed a pattern. The jokes always highlighted my weaknesses, never my strengths. Eventually, I began doubting myself, wondering if these flaws were as big as they made them out to be. That's where the real damage starts. People who regularly joke about your shortcomings aren't doing it because they care. They're testing how much disrespect you'll tolerate. It's a subtle manipulation tactic, a way to assert dominance while keeping you down. They're essentially telling you, "You're beneath me," and the worst part is, they get away with it because society often frames it as your fault if you can't take a joke. But it's time to shift your perspective. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself when a joke crosses the line. In fact, it's essential. You deserve to be around people who lift you up, not those who bring you down for a cheap laugh. True friends don't need to point out your flaws to feel better. They celebrate your strengths and help you work through weaknesses without making you the punchline. I've seen this happen countless times. People put up with hurtful jokes just to keep the peace. But when you allow others to disrespect you, even through humor, it's a slippery slope. It starts with minor comments, but over time, these jokes can wear you down, making you question your worth. The more you allow it, the further they'll push until you become a shadow of yourself, just because you didn't want to be seen as too sensitive. I learned this the hard way. When I laughed along, I was giving them permission to continue. I was complicit in my own disrespect. Only when I started pushing back, setting boundaries, did things change, not just in how they treated me, but in how I saw myself. I stopped letting their words define me and began owning my own story. So here's my advice. Next time someone's joke hurts you, don't just brush it off. Ask yourself, is this really funny, or is something else going on here? If the answer leans toward the latter, don't hesitate to confront it. It might be awkward, and it might even end the relationship, but your self-respect is worth more than someone else's twisted sense of humor. At the end of the day, life is too short to spend around people who don't see your value. If their idea of friendship is constantly pointing out your flaws, it might be time to find new friends. Those who truly care will never need to tear you down to feel good about themselves. Stand tall, speak up, and don't let anyone turn you into a joke. And we all know the type. Those compliments that sound like subtle jabs. Trust yourself. You know when it's not sincere. We've all felt that sting when someone gives a compliment that lands with a touch of bitterness, like being patted on the back with a velvet glove hiding a thorn. It's the type of compliment that makes you pause, thinking, wait, was that really praise, or more of a disguised jab? Here's the tough truth. Often, it's both. These backhanded compliments are a subtle way for people to diminish you under the guise of friendliness. I remember once pouring my heart into a big project I was really proud of. After countless hours of hard work, I shared it with a group of colleagues. Someone I thought was an ally said with a smile, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." I was speechless. At first, it sounded like praise, but that phrase "for someone like you" hit like a slap. What was that supposed to mean? Was I not capable of producing something good? This is a frustrating reality about these comments. They're not about building you up. They're about keeping you in your place. It's a power play, a way for the person giving the compliment to assert superiority, leaving you questioning your own abilities. They're indirectly telling you, "I see you're trying, but you'll never really measure up." It's insidious, wrapped in such a charming package that it's easy to miss the toxic punch beneath the surface. And let's be honest, those who give backhanded compliments are usually not secure in themselves. They see your potential, they notice your strengths, and it unsettles them. So they use these small, sneaky put-downs to keep you doubting yourself, to make sure you don't fly too high. It's like they're patting your back with one hand while pushing you down with the other. And here's the more controversial part. Sometimes we've all done this ourselves, consciously or not. We've all had those moments when our own insecurities slip out in the form of a compliment that's really more about reminding others of their place. The important takeaway here is that you don't have to accept this kind of veiled hostility. You have the right to call it out for what it is, a reflection of someone else's insecurities, not a measure of your worth. When someone says, "You're smarter than you look," or "This is pretty good," especially since you're just starting, you don't have to just smile and accept it. Don't be afraid to confront it, even if it makes things a bit awkward. If you don't, you're giving them power over how you see yourself, a power you should never hand over to anyone else. I've learned to see these comments for what they are, a mirror reflecting the other person's insecurity. Seeing it that way robs it of its sting. Instead of letting it erode your confidence, you can almost laugh it off, because, in the end, their words say much more about them than about you. So, what do I do now when I receive a backhanded compliment? I don't let it slide. I respond with something like, "Thanks, but what did you mean by that?" It forces them to confront the real meaning behind their words, and often they'll be taken aback. They quickly realize you're not playing along with their game, and their attitude usually shifts. Remember, don't let someone's hidden negativity define you, whether it's from someone you thought was a friend, a jealous coworker, or even a family member. Your worth isn't for others to determine. A compliment should lift you up, not pull you down. If someone's words leave you doubting yourself, then it's time to question their intentions instead. Life's too short to waste on people who can't sincerely celebrate your achievements. Surround yourself with people who see your worth and who express it without any strings attached. And let's not ignore those times when you're left out of events, parties, or gatherings, the times they claim were last minute, or that they thought you were too busy. Let's be real. These aren't coincidences. This is exclusion dressed up as thoughtlessness, and it's a clear sign you aren't valued as much as you may have thought. I've been there too, scrolling through my phone on a weekend, only to see photos of a group of friends having a great time at an event I'd wanted to attend. Yet no one had mentioned it to me. When I brought it up later, they had all sorts of excuses. "Oh, we thought you'd be busy," or "It was a last-minute thing." But deep down, I knew the truth. If they genuinely wanted me there, they would have made sure I knew about it. The problem is, society teaches us to make excuses for people who exclude us. We tell ourselves, "It's no big deal," or "It's probably not personal." But let's call it what it is. It is personal. When people continuously leave you out, it's because they've made a choice about your place in their life. They don't see you as a significant part of the group, and that hurts. The hard truth is that we've become accustomed to accepting busy as a reasonable excuse for being sidelined. But let's be honest, people always make time for what and who they care about. If someone is always busy when it comes to you, it's not about scheduling, it's about priorities. This can be difficult to accept because it forces us to confront a reality where we may not matter to them as much as we thought. The bitter truth is that busy is often just a polite way of saying, "I don't want to make time for you." It's easier for them to blame their schedule than to admit they're choosing not to include you in their life. This is their passive way of keeping you at arm's length without having to deal with the discomfort of being honest. They keep you in limbo, treating you like a backup plan without ever truly investing in the relationship. I've been on both sides of this dynamic. There have been times when I was the one making excuses because I didn't know how to tell someone that the friendship no longer felt meaningful. But being the one left out taught me an important lesson. It's better to be honest, however awkward, than to let relationships drag on with flimsy excuses. When I finally confronted a friend who was always too busy, the conversation was uncomfortable but necessary. It gave me the clarity I needed to move on and put my time and energy into relationships where I was genuinely valued. The deeper takeaway here is that your time is precious, and so is your energy. Don't waste them on people who can't be bothered to make time for you. If someone is always too busy to meet up or include you, it's time to reevaluate that relationship. You deserve to be around people who genuinely want to spend time with you, who make the effort to include you in their lives, not just when it's convenient, but because they value your presence. We need to recognize that people change, and relationships do too. Sometimes we hold on to people out of habit, nostalgia, or fear of loneliness, even when it's clear they're ready to move on. But there's strength in letting go and accepting that you deserve more than someone's leftover time. This isn't asking for too much. It's valuing yourself enough to let go of people who don't value you. There's also another sign to watch out for: when they roll their eyes or act dismissive when you speak. You know that feeling when you're in a group, sharing your thoughts, and all you get back are eye rolls or dismissive glances? It's like a punch to the gut. These small gestures reveal a lot. They're clear indicators that not only are they uninterested in what you have to say, but they're actively trying to undermine you. I've been in situations where I shared my thoughts on a subject I cared about, only to be met with eye rolls and sarcastic comments. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just being sensitive. But over time, I realized it wasn't accidental. It was a subtle form of rejection, a way to keep me in a lesser role without saying it outright. So, what should you do when faced with situations like these? Don't just accept it as a given. Stand firm in your worth, and remember that people who truly value you would never make you feel lesser. Invest your time in people who don't hesitate to show they value you, not just in words, but in actions, no matter how challenging it may be. Over time, I came to realize these reactions were more than just differences of opinion. They were subtle signals, a way for others to show the room that my perspective wasn't worth respecting. Eye rolls or dismissive gestures are quiet, but powerful acts of disrespect. They allow someone to belittle you without uttering a word, shaking your confidence under the guise of harmless fun. Here's the controversial part. Many people brush off these gestures, telling themselves it's just how that person is. But in reality, these behaviors are toxic, and they can deeply impact your self-worth. Here's the key point. People who roll their eyes or smirk are often projecting their own insecurities. They may feel threatened by your confidence, knowledge, or ability to communicate, and instead of engaging with you on equal ground, they choose to bring you down. This act reasserts their sense of power, and unfortunately, it's often effective. When you're repeatedly met with dismissive glances and sneers, it can gradually erode your self-confidence and make you question your worth. I've learned to face these behaviors directly. The next time someone rolls their eyes while I'm speaking, I call it out. Did you just roll your eyes? What did you mean by that? This forces them to confront their behavior and reconsider their actions. More importantly, it reminds me that I won't tolerate disrespect. So remember this. Don't let anyone undermine your voice or your value. Eye-rolling and disdainful expressions are signs that someone is trying to assert their dominance, and you have every right to challenge it. Surround yourself with people who respect your opinions, value your contributions, and uplift rather than diminish you. Life is too short to spend with people who can't appreciate your strengths. There's another subtle sign worth mentioning. When someone avoids physical contact with you, as if it's contagious. Let's be real. Physical contact, or more specifically, the absence of it, isn't just relevant in romantic relationships. It's a fundamental part of human interaction, a way we connect and build trust. So what does it mean when someone deliberately avoids even the slightest touch? The answer isn't pleasant. They're sending you a clear signal that they're uncomfortable around you, and you need to pay attention to that. I remember working with a colleague who would pull back whenever I extended a hand for a handshake or went for a friendly pat on the back. Initially, I thought it was in my head, but then I noticed they were warm and comfortable with others. Yet with me, it was as if I carried some invisible boundary they couldn't cross. Eventually, I understood that this wasn't just a habit. It was a deliberate choice to maintain distance. The issue here is that physical touch is a natural part of human communication. When someone avoids it with you specifically, they're conveying discomfort or a lack of connection. Sure, some people dislike physical contact in general, and that's perfectly valid. But if this aversion is selective, if they're relaxed and affectionate with others, but tense and closed off with you, that's a sign something is off. They may not dislike you enough to outright say it, but their body language tells you everything. Let's be honest, we've all experienced this on both sides. Maybe you've avoided a handshake or leaned back when someone came too close because you simply weren't comfortable. Or perhaps you've been the one being avoided, wondering why someone always seemed to shrink back when you were around. It's uncomfortable, even awkward, and it often points to a relationship that isn't as strong as you might think. The deeper truth is that physical touch is a key element in human bonding. It's how we express trust, warmth, and empathy. When someone avoids it with you, they're not just refusing to touch you, they're avoiding closeness, intimacy, and vulnerability. They're keeping you at a literal and metaphorical distance, and that's a clear sign the relationship isn't what you thought it was. I've learned to pay attention to these signs, even when it's hard to accept what they mean. There was a time when I ignored these signs, convincing myself that someone's avoidance of closeness was just part of their personality. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't about them. It was about me and the nature of our relationship. When I finally chose to confront the situation, it led to difficult conversations, and in some cases, to the end of certain relationships. Yet it also freed me from the constant second-guessing about why things felt off. The underlying message here is not to ignore the signs. When someone avoids even casual physical contact, it's not just a personal preference. It's a statement about their level of comfort and connection with you. If this happens repeatedly, don't be afraid to face it. It may lead to deeper understanding, or it may reveal that the relationship isn't as strong as you believed. Either way, it's better to face the truth than to live in denial. You deserve relationships where closeness isn't awkward or avoided, but natural and comfortable. Whether it's a friendly hug, a handshake, or just sitting next to each other without tension, these small gestures build trust and connection. If someone continually avoids these, it's a sign that something is amiss. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions, and if necessary, make the tough decisions. Life is too short to be surrounded by people who keep you at arm's length, both literally and figuratively. Now let's talk about another sign, when someone disappears when you need support. Let's be realistic. Nothing reveals the true nature of a relationship like a crisis. When things get hard, that's when you learn who your real friends are. So what does it say about someone if they vanish just when you need them most? This isn't just a sign of inconsistency. It's a glaring warning that they don't care for you as much as you thought. And let's face it, when someone ghosts you during tough times, it's not only painful but feels like a betrayal. I learned this the hard way during a particularly difficult period in my life. I was dealing with a personal crisis that cut deeply. Naturally, I reached out to close friends, expecting at least a supportive message or a quick check-in. But guess what? silence. Those I thought would be there had every excuse ready. I'm swamped. Sorry, I've been so busy lately. I'll check in with you soon. But here's the thing. They never did. Here's the controversial part. Everyone loves to say they'll always be there for you. But when things turn sour, many people only show up when life is good. They'll happily party with you, laugh with you, and enjoy your successes. But the moment things get hard, they're nowhere to be found. It's far easier for them to ignore your struggles than to face your pain or discomfort. They don't want to be drawn into your problems because, deep down, they don't care enough to be there when it actually matters. Let's be blunt. Real support isn't about convenience. It's about showing up when things are tough, when it's uncomfortable, and when it's the last thing you want to do. Those who vanish when you need them most aren't just showing carelessness. They're making it clear that you hold little value in their life. They're subtly telling you, your problems aren't worth my time. I remember the utter disappointment of realizing that those I'd once stood by, through their breakups, family troubles, and career failures, couldn't return the same sincerity. It was a harsh wake-up call, but also a lesson I needed to learn. Not everyone who smiles with you is truly on your side. The deeper takeaway is that support is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. It's easy to show up when everything is going well, but the real test of any relationship is how people respond when things get difficult. Those who genuinely care will never abandon you when you need them most. If someone disappears in your time of need, they're not just letting you down, they're showing they were never truly present in your life to begin with. Don't let someone's absence make you bitter. Let it make you stronger. Think of it as a filter, helping you remove people who don't truly belong in your life. Those who stick around, check in, and show up even when it's inconvenient are the ones who truly matter, and those are the relationships worth cherishing and nurturing. In the end, life is too short to invest in fair-weather friends who only show up when the skies are clear. Surround yourself with people who will stand by you through the storms, not just when the sun is shining. Because when you find those rare people who are willing to stay through the rough times, you've found something worth holding on to. For those who choose to walk away, let them go. They've already shown you their true nature. Now, let's talk about people who talk behind your back. Gossip is like social poison. It spreads faster than wildfire and can destroy relationships in an instant. The thing about gossip is that it's never as harmless as people think. When someone you consider a friend talks about you behind your back, they're not just sharing some idle story. They're actively trying to undermine your trust, reputation, and relationships. And let's be honest, when they gossip about you, it's a clear sign of basic disrespect for who you are. I once had a friend who seemed supportive on the surface, but loved to share my personal details as if they were public knowledge. It didn't take long before I started hearing rumors about things they'd told others, people I barely knew. It was a painful reality check that left me feeling betrayed and vulnerable. This person wasn't just sharing my personal life, they were twisting it, painting a negative picture and creating a barrier between me and others. Here's the controversial part. Gossip is a toxic behavior often rooted in deeper insecurities. When someone feels the need to talk behind your back instead of confronting you, it reflects their own issues, not yours. They're projecting their own fears, jealousy, or insecurities onto you, crafting a story that suits their agenda. So what do you do when you find out someone's been spreading rumors about you? You face it. I know it's uncomfortable, but ignoring the situation only gives it more power. When I finally confronted that friend, the conversation was intense, but it revealed so much about their character. It turned out they were dealing with their own insecurities and felt threatened by my accomplishments. Instead of having an open conversation with me, they chose to tear me down behind my back. The deeper message here is that gossip is a sign that someone is not truly your friend. Real friends lift you up. They don't quietly tear you down. If someone is spreading rumors about you, it's time to reassess their place in your life. You deserve relationships built on trust, loyalty, and open communication, not betrayal and petty backtalk. And remember, even if you're the subject of rumors, don't let them define you. People will talk, but your value is not determined by their opinions or stories. Focus on the relationships that truly matter, the ones grounded in mutual respect and genuine support. When you surround yourself with authentic people, the gossip fades into the background, and what remains is the strength of true friendship. So don't let someone's backstabbing affect you. Face it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. Life is too short to waste time on people who can't stop mentioning you in a negative light. Seek out those who will celebrate your successes and lift you up, not those who only bring you down. Real friends will be there to encourage and defend you, and those are the relationships worth treasuring. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more content. See you in the next video.